Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin. Welcome back home.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So it was like this really nice day Friday when I got home and I was just so exhausted. And then it rained the entire weekend.
We had a thunderstorm. I don't even remember what night it was, if it was Saturday night or Sunday. No, maybe it was Sunday night. I honestly don't remember, but there was a thunderstorm. And I realized that this was pretty much Bella's first thunderstorm. So she wasn't quite sure what to do about it. And so she was just sort of like, okay, well, I'm leaving, but no one else was joining her. And so she was like, okay, well, maybe I'll stay. And it was so eventually she just was like, since no one else is freaking out, I'll just go and lay really close to you.
Aww.
And she passed out for the night. But yeah, it feels like summer and fall are having some type of dance where they're trying to figure out who's staying, who's coming.
Yeah, it was like 70 degrees here today, which is nice, but it felt cold to me because it's been 95 degrees for 2 months straight. And so I'm like, what is going on? And Tim's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, I'm going to get my seat warmer back out for the car.
I know I was walking Apollo this morning. I was wearing a little jacket. So it was just like, and I was bad. I wore my pajama pants. I don't sleep in them. I just walk around the house in them. And I just decided, why change? It's fine. No one's judging me. Except for Johan. Johan judged me when I got back home. But no one else judged me. No one mentioned my pajamas.
Some days it'd be like that.
I just decided this is today's. So we went to SuperZoo.
Yes, we did.
And that was quite the adventure. I have a handful of business cards from various people. Some of it's like brands that we were interested in, people we want to have onto the podcast, probably just random stuff I picked up for no apparent reason. So how do you want to tackle this? Well, one thing I want to say is I've been going to SuperZoo since 2016. And it doesn't really change. I think the biggest change that I saw that really stood out to me was it wasn't as crowded as it usually is. And I think I kept telling you this as we were coming and going. When you're leaving the showroom or coming back to the showroom, it's wall to wall people, just so many people coming and going. And I don't know if they reduced the number of people in it. I don't know how they were able to handle it. If people just aren't attending as often, or if for some reason they reduce the number of people who are attending. But it was really nice not to be, shoulder to shoulder with tons of people trying to come in and out of SuperZoo.
Well, as a first timer, it's a little overwhelming. Just the size. It's like I kind of knew what to expect, but just wow.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my first time in Vegas, but I seem to have just forgotten just like how much walking, we stayed next door at the Luxor, the trade shows at Mandalay Bay. It was probably a mile from our rooms. So we did a lot of walking
and we went back and forth a couple times each day. And there was the unfortunate time when we got twisted around in Mandalay Bay and ended up on a tram
to nowhere
to Excalibur and then back to Mandalay Bay, which we just finally gave up and got off of the tram and then went to find the walking way to get back to the Luxor. So that was a lovely, probably 30, 40 minutes out of our day of just trying.
It was nice to sit down for a minute.
Yes, exactly. So I think you want to start with the good.
Yeah. So, I mean, the best part was just seeing all the people that we know, seeing all
Yeah.
the brands that we love, all the people that do so much hard work and put the hard work in to put out quality products for our pets, and being able to be under one roof with all of them was very exciting. And then, it was funny because from time to time I would think, oh, what about this brand? And then be like, oh, nope, they're not there.
Yeah.
And so it was also just interesting to me. I mean, obviously, I know this is a business. It's an industry. We always hear it's this hundred and something $1 billion industry. But just really thinking about it from the standpoint of like, it costs a lot of money for companies just to be there, to have the space to build the booth, and like for some of them, the juice isn't worth the squeeze kind of thing. And, just remembering to look at it from that perspective too, when I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Because it is at several $1,000s to have a booth there. And one thing because I was there last year, so there were a few businesses that I saw that it was their first time last year. And so they just have sort of like a regular no frills type of booth. But this year they had a full on, like we took up 2 spaces and now look at our entire product line. And it's just like, oh, well, things have changed for you guys. And so it's always nice to see that. It is cool to talk to the people behind the brands to see what's coming next.
Yeah.
Whether they're going to reduce products, like this isn't going so well, we're not going to do this anymore. We've spoke to brands that were like, I don't want to say anything just in case hasn't been announced by the brand, but there is one brand in particular that has a whole product line that they're discontinuing because they can't get the quality of craftsmanship any longer. And the people that they work with basically are retiring and their businesses are going to be shut down. And instead of trying to find more people to do it, they decided to just go ahead and let that part of their business go. And so it's just sort of like, that's, there's just so much to think about where I don't think on our side, like on the consumer side, there's a lot of things we just look for the cool stuff. I just want something that's going to make my dog live forever. I don't really think about what goes into building these businesses. I was also, and this is not a surprise for me, but it's always like an interesting reminder how many small women-owned businesses there are in the pet industry. So many. I mean, and it's just like when you see there was like a whole grooming section. I mean, there are male groomers, but when you look, you see women everywhere. I mean, women really dominate the pet industry. And I read a study, and this was probably a decade ago, where it was a marketing study where it said that 80 or so percent of households, the purchases made for pets are made by women. And so it's just like, it makes sense that this is our space.
I'm definitely one of them. So, the next exciting thing was the new products that were announced, right?
Yes.
By both companies that we were familiar with and then companies that were new to us.
Yeah. So Cocoa Therapy, I posted on social media about it, but they announced their Cocoa Ghee and their Cocoa Gold. And I've been cooking with it for a few weeks now. And this stuff is no joke. I love it. I absolutely love it. And so that was really cool to see them coming, because sometimes you look at, it's sort of like, what more can you do? What more can you do with coconuts? I mean, so it was really of absolute pleasure to see them come out, not only with something cool, but something unique. I mean, not a lot of people are coming out with a golden paste product. I mean, I think it's them and it's Green Juju.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that no one else. I'm also surprised that we don't see a lot of coconut products. I mean, we talked about this when we interviewed them on an earlier episode, but that's something that I was surprised about was, like the husk. I thought, we did see one booth that had the coconut husk, and I was like, oh, look it's back. But the company that I knew of, the one that introduced me to like the benefits of dogs gnawing on a coconut husk and what it does for their teeth, I don't think that they're around anymore. So but it's nice that someone else did it. But of course, there's also the quality and the sourcing. And since I don't know anything about this other company, I didn't really look much into it.
And then, of course, Myco Dog launched their Digest product, so I'll be super excited to try that one. And then Adored Beast had their Positive Immunity product, which is a colostrum alternative, which uses plasma.
Mhm.
So I'm using that with Nessie right now, and I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, I'm going to start that one with Apollo because what I came home to was Apollo has some type of skin situation going on.
Oh my
I can't
goodness.
see anything, but he's itching like crazy and it's not fleas. So I think that a few days eating a processed air dried food, um,
Made that much difference.
I don't think it set well with him. So I need to reset his system. So yeah, I was thinking about that digest today as well. But I'm definitely gonna. We each got a container of the Adored Beast, and so I'm definitely gonna give that one a try. What I like about it is just the idea of the healing and something different. And I mean, sometimes it's just a shock to the system. I mean, even though I took my dogs off of supplements for a little bit to give their system a break, sometimes going back into the supplements they're used to giving isn't going to give them that healing that I need them to have because it's just standard. But so I'm hoping that this will give it.
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
And then Teef announced their treats.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting.
Yep.
And goodness gracious, launched a line of therapeutic diets.
Yes. You guys can't see, but Erin is trying to do the podcast while playing with Nessie, and it is quite entertaining.
She thinks my hand is a chew toy and it starts to hurt after a while.
And then OC Raw.
Yes.
This was OC Raw, right? That came. Yes. OC Raw has, they have mussels, but they have like a lot of the foods that are individuals, the things that people are like, where can I find, turkey hearts? Well, OC Raw has them. You can get chicken hearts, turkey hearts, beef livers, chicken livers, duck hearts. What is this? I'm not sure what that is because I can't read it. Oh, it's chicken necks, turkey livers, minnows. You can get and the minnows are big.
Huge.
They have them frozen and freeze dried, and duck livers. But, so all of that, it's like if you're looking for beef hearts, if you're looking for all of those things and you can't find them like at a local ethnic market, check with your local pet store and see if they can get these in. So that was like a real surprise because, I mean, for me, I like to add in extra stuff to my dog's meals, independent of the grind that I make. So this was really exciting for me to see.
Yeah, that's called their additions line from OC
Yeah.
Raw. So yeah, I was texting that to my friend Kate, who runs Clippers Canine Cafe. And when I went in to see her yesterday, she's like, I'll have the mussels here on Friday. And I was like, excellent.
But yeah, the minnows were insane. I mean, when I saw the bag of the minnows basically look like smaller sardines. Like not the sardines that you get in a can, but when you get fresh sardines, the minnows look like probably a little half the size of those. But significantly bigger than what we're used to seeing as treats. And so I did find I think 3 Manuka honey brands. For some reason, I thought Manuka honey was going to be like everyone was going to be doing Manuka honey. No, they're not.
I was surprised there was as many as there was, to be honest.
Yeah, there were 3. I found 3. And what I was really surprised about, because usually I feel like every year, there's a hot button. Like there was one year where CBD was everywhere. This year it was probiotics. It felt like we couldn't go anywhere without seeing probiotics something. Yes. Even like, there was a cool thing where it was a test kit where you can go and get here it is. You can it's a rapid test. And so the things that you would go to your vet for, you got parvovirus, you have flu, canine flu, heartworm, distemper, all these tests. And so you can do it and it's affordable. And then they will help you with a pet biotic, which is a probiotics. If something in you, I think this is the same company. Yeah, this is the same company. If something within the test is your dog needs additional gut support, they have a probiotic product to give you. I don't know much about it because I didn't look into it, but I did. I mean, I think over the years of learning more about probiotics, I've learned, especially because of what Julianne of Adored Beasts has provided, as far as coming up with species appropriate probiotics. And then everyone who has been talking about the need to have variety in the gut. I mean, Billy Hookman of Green Juju has talked about that. Rodney Habib has talked about that. I know that Julianne Lee has talked about it. So I know that when I see a probiotic and it's just one strain of something, it's probably not going to do what I need it to do for my dogs. So I think I'm a little discerning this year because of that.
Yeah, so that was something I had in my do your research category, was this trend of probiotics being in things and seemingly kind of randomly.
Mm-hmm.
And when we would stop and talk to companies, just trying to show our curiosity and being like, oh, well, why are you using that strain of probiotic in every single one of your products? And their response is kind of like, so do you know what probiotics are?
Yes, that was so funny because I sent out a newsletter this morning and I used the term 2.0 pet parent. And I never really, I mean, I understand what that means, but it really hit home because Erin and I walking around asking people questions, it's like we're trying to catch them in a lie.
And we weren't.
Yeah. I mean, we just wanted to know, but it was just sort of like, I think anyone listening to us would have the same questions. It's sort of like, why would you put, and this was, it was a raw food brand, which I've heard great things about. But what I saw was that, and that's what they basically were telling us, hey, we put this probiotic in all of the foods, in the freeze dried and the frozen. And we were just sort of like, huh? And so Erin's question was like, why? Because they were talking about this specific strain that, is so great. Okay, well, why did you choose that? And my question was, are you concerned about constantly feeding something with probiotics in it, sort of pushing out the native bacteria and making it hard for the gut to really just sort of build its own microbiome and not have the variety? And I think that just basically, we were no longer welcomed at the booth. They weren't rude to us or anything.
Yeah, the response was, I've never heard of that before.
Yes.
And, the response of why that strain was, well, do you know what probiotics are?
Yeah, it was just it was one of those where, I mean, clearly, it's the same as, or I don't know if it's the same, but I feel like it's similar to when you see a brand at a pet store and they have their little table set up and they're giving out samples. They may not be like someone who works directly with the brand or who's in, research and development. They might just be someone they hired for the day to go to the store. And so I don't know how many of these people were just hired to do SuperZoo and they were not prepared for people to ask questions like this, or if they just genuinely don't know. Because I don't know how many people, I wonder how many other people ask them those questions.
So the visual I'm having in my brain is, if you go to a bar on like a Friday night and they'll have like a shots girl that's like, oh, here, take a shot. And we were basically like, so how was this distilled? The vodka,
Yes.
How many times?
Exactly. Exactly.
That might have been.
Oh, is that Spanish? So what, what area of Spain did that come from? And it's like, because I was there a couple of years ago. I mean, it's just like, and they're just sort of like, lady, I just want to give you a shot.
Exactly.
Can I just give you a shot? Because I got other people that I got to get to.
Yeah, because like in my mind, I'm like, oh, like maybe they worked with animal biome and we're like, oh, this is a, something that's like commonly missing from the dog's gut. So we're going to put
Yes.
this in our,
Well,
like, this is what I thought was like going to happen.
well,
And that is
I
not
mean,
what
think
happened.
about the people who, if we would have asked, like, I'm the person that comes to mind right immediately is Rob Ryan of Gussie's Gut. Like, if that had been his company, he would have been like, well, or, I'm sorry, I completely forgot his name, but you'll remember, but the owner of the keto diet that's doing the
Oh,
lawsuit, Daniel.
Daniel
I'm
Schulhoff,
thinking about him, and just there's so many other people. Gosh, Angela Ardolino, Billy Hookman. I mean, there's so many people where if we were to say, oh, why did you decide to do blank? They will have an answer, and like a fun answer of, oh my gosh, yeah, we were diving into all these things and we're trying to figure out how, because one thing I asked was, will the probiotics, are they still viable in the freezer for an extended period of time? Because I mean, I don't feed commercial raw all the time, but when I do, like I have a bunch of it in the freezer right now, including this brand, it'll be in my freezer until the end of the year. So that's going to be about 5 months. So are the probiotics going to still be probioticing? And they said, yeah, it'll be perfectly fine. But by then I wasn't sure if it's like, are you sure? Or but yeah, and hopefully maybe it's a new company. So maybe as they go on and they start interacting with people who are calling them up and asking these questions, they'll start developing like, oh, okay, this is what people want to know. Because to be perfectly honest, 15 years ago, I wasn't asking people these questions. If someone told me it was a probiotic, I would just be like, okay. And I just went, it wasn't until I started learning that I started asking more questions. So
yeah, because if it's something like super beneficial, I would want to know and tell everyone. But
yeah,
I need like some science or something to go on here,
especially since I'd never heard of that before. It was a probiotic strain that I'd never heard of before. And so I was really curious about learning more about it. Oh, yes. Okay, so this brand, Dogtur RS.
Yes, I'll drop a link for everyone because it's not something we were familiar with.
Yeah, Dogtur, and it's, as you can tell, it's a play on words. Instead of doctor, it's Dogtur. Well, we've got gut defense, and was the other one immune defense? Aging. The other one was aging. Yeah, age defense. And these are chewable supplements with
peptides.
Is that what it is? Peptides?
Yeah.
And the guy that we spoke to, yep, I got him. We got tons of them because he was like, yeah, go ahead, take them.
They ended up all over the inside of my suitcase.
Yes, mine did too. These little sticky things on the back did not
work. Yeah.
So
I was like digging them out of the corner of my suitcase when I got home.
Ooh, I'm going to give this to Apollo. I want to give these to Zoe. And so kind of the long story short of it is that these will start to repair damage that may be done. So like with the age defense, it's going to go in. I mean, it's not going to cure things, but it's going to start getting our dogs what they need to start repairing things and helping it to repair things. Same with the gut defense. I got some that I'm giving to Zoe, the age defense, and then the gut defense is going to Apollo. Oh, and we found Jope. Someone recommended that we stop by Jope. Yeah. There's the joint supplement. And so we stopped by there as well. We saw a lot of really great people, a lot of great brands.
Yeah, especially in that new, both Jope and the Dog Tour, they were in that emerging brands area, like the first time. It was like our first. And so, they just kind of get like a little table.
Yeah, they get a little tiny. It's probably not even a quarter of the size. Probably, yeah, maybe it is a quarter of the size of a regular booth space.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just like a 6-foot table or something.
Yeah, and they share it with someone on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's not all theirs. And there was a lady, the Pupwell lady with the grooming kit, which I just loved it because I thought it was pretty and everything was all new and fancy and aesthetic
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I took a video. I think I I posted it, but I don't know what portion of it showed up in my video. But I took a video of Erin clipping. She had these little sticks, and so you can use the clippers to clip the sticks. And Erin, she clipped off a big chunk, and I was just like, "What are you doing? How are you clipping your dog's
I was
nails?"
trying to show that it worked.
And she was so hesitant about it. And I was like, no wonder she won't let you clip her nails. So I totally nail clip shame Erin. It was
I was
horrible.
trying to be like demonstrative. And then the little B-side clip like went flying across the room.
I know. Oh, and there is this where you told me about this. We were walking past. Erin was really good because Erin would see stuff and be like, oh, we should go and look at this. And so is it Back on Track?
Yes. And
yes,
that's primarily a horse company, but they do make a lot of dog products too. But I bet any equine people would recognize their name.
Yeah. What I love is that and I was going to buy it there, but they only wanted cash. And I don't carry cash around with me anymore. I mean, I guess I could have gone to a cash machine and got some, but that just didn't happen. But I'm looking for, it's sort of like I don't even know what you call it, kind of like a small blanket that you would put over their bed. And it's supposed to basically just support joints. I wish I knew more about it because clearly you can hear my voice. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But in the horse arena, this is something that's very big. And so I wanted to check it out for my dogs.
So I actually had one of their crate pads for probably like 10 years. We only recently I upgraded and got the big Barker crate pads for both Nino and Nessie, but we still use the Back on Track one kind of like underneath one of the dog beds for extra support, but it has gotten kind of worn down, but we've also had it for like probably over 10 years now.
Yeah, because this is what I wanted. It was a therapeutic mini blanket, and it's the Back on Track, blah, 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 blah. Is multifunctional with a soft filling that provides pure comfort and healing power. I don't really know how, though. But, this stuff is magical, so maybe that's what it is. It's magic. It impressed me enough to want to buy something. But since we were leaving on Friday, and Friday is when you can usually buy stuff from the booth. So I missed my shot. And I did get the fleas gone tag, the flea repellent tag. I got a 2-year tag. I got 2 of them for only 2 of my dogs wear collars. So I got 2 of them, and I'll give those a try maybe next year. And my last thing that I was really excited about, I'm just looking through my list of stuff, but that I was really excited about was the comfort collar. Remember the donut collars?
Yes.
Because they could, they were so clever because you can tighten it up. You can get a big one and tighten it up a little bit so it still won't come off your dog's neck. But also they had an attachment inside where you can attach a leash to it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really clever.
So yeah, that's like an alternative to, wearing like the big e-collar thing, when your dog has had surgery or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So those were really cool. But otherwise, I was disappointed Fluff and Tough wasn't there. Oh, and what is it? What are they called? Oh, Standard Process. Standard Process now has a pet line that pet owners can get. We don't have to go through our veterinarian to get them. And my curiosity about this one is it as strong as what you would get through I think these are just regular supplements rather than something that is medicinal that you would get through the veterinarian.
Yeah, they had 3 formulas, if I remember correctly. There was like a dental health formula, like a joint support, and then kind of like a multivitamin one.
Yeah.
I didn't look super closely at them. I did get excited because I saw they were connected with Standard Process. But yeah, that's one I want to check out more also.
But that was pretty much it.
So some of the trends that I saw that I thought were good trends were like the single ingredient air dried treats and more parts of the animal being used for, for treats. And I just always felt like, if we're going to use an animal, we should use all of the parts of the animal. So
what do we see? The bladder?
Yeah, which
We saw
I don't know if I'm hardcore enough for, but I appreciate it.
And they showed us the bladder at its normal state and the bladder when it's all stretched out. And it's just like, oh, yay.
So I felt like that's at least a good trend, because it's like you want to get people away from the milk bones, right? Like you just get a single ingredient treat, and get away from the rawhide and get like a legit chew for your dog. And there were, we talked about that at-home testing kit for pet parents. Of course, we also saw innovative pet labs.
Yes.
And I saw some other things that were more just like, I thought, empowering like pet parents to like do things at home for their health, screening. And so just with the stuff that goes on in the veterinary industry and vet shortages, like I feel like this is a good trend to see us to be able to have more access to things, at home. And then one thing, because I'm such a pit bull lover and a pit bull person, I was just happy anytime I saw a pit bull being used in a company's marketing in a positive way.
And she made a point of letting people know. Like she was like, I'm so excited that you guys are used. So she gave people, positive feedback so they know that they're on the right track. So I thought that was nice. And who did you meet while you were there?
I did. I met Shorty Rossi from the Pit Boss show on that used to be on Animal Planet. And, I was telling Kimberly, I'm such a pit bull person. We've had pit bulls for 20 years now. And I really do feel like I've seen a shift in the zeitgeist over this time. And part of it's because of shows like that. And of course, the Pit Bulls and Parolees show, and just letting people see these dogs in a different light. And so I get excited now when I see like a mainstream brand using a pit bull in their marketing or something. And to me, that's a very exciting thing.
And he was so nice, because he was like looking at his phone or something like that. And, Erin was like, excuse me. And he was like, took pictures and all that type of stuff. He was so nice. I was just like, it's like, thank you for being nice. Because sometimes people just aren't. I mean, I get it. You get tired, but he was really nice. And Katherine Heigl was there.
I was going to say, do you want to tell?
We saw pictures.
Yeah, we didn't know she was there till after she was gone, but she was there.
Because I heard that she was going to be there, but then it was just sort of like, maybe she's not going to be there. But then, we started seeing people posting pictures with Katherine Heigl.
In our defense, her company is called Badlands Ranch, and they were not listed on the vendor list because they were listed under like the name of their distributor or some other name. Yeah. And so we had no idea even how to find them. And we had wandered, like that first day, we somehow missed that they were there, know.
And we probably, when we found them, we realized we had probably walked by them like 3 or 4 times, during the time that we were there, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I miss it. But it's weird, but I'm really glad that I did it, because I love Katherine Heigl. I love Grey's Anatomy is my jam. And I need my actors to be the characters that I love. I don't want to know the person behind the character. So if she had been in any way kind of grumpy or like, it would have just ruined it for me. So I was like, kind of like, oh, good. But yeah, I hear that she does have a good side, and she is insistent on taking the picture from her good side.
So the other things I have on my do your research consumer list, aside from the probiotics, was how many times like natural, earth-friendly, plant-based, the wording is used, the aesthetic is used, the all-wood, laminate look and stuff. And most of it's stuff that, you would not, if you're listening to our podcast, give your dog.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things where walking around, no wonder because people wonder, is like, why aren't people feeding raw? And, they're just being lazy, or they're just being cheap, and they should. And it's like, I bet you a lot of people think they're doing a great job.
They don't know.
Because there's so much out there that's telling you. And I mean, and this isn't new, but everyone has raw. some type of raw in their, like a raw coated kibble or raw pieces in the kibble or some type of, or kibble made with raw ingredients, but they're using natural, fresh, raw.
So another trend I think people should just be on the lookout for. There were so many like calming treats and calming supplements. And, some of them are CBD, and I think some of them are quality products, but I think some of them you have to really be like, okay, what is in here?
Mm-hmm.
Number one. And then number two, having like a realistic expectation that like this is not going to knock your dog out so that you can cut their nails. This is not going to knock your dog out when there's a thunderstorm, just having a realistic expectation, because I feel like people are like, oh, I can just give them a couple calming treats and then like everything will be fine somehow. And no.
Lots of bones too. We saw lots of people with bones.
Yeah.
Like even in the new, like the emerging products area, there was a person there with the big, weight bearing bones. And I understand that some dogs do really great on those giant bones. They freak me the hell out.
Yeah.
But yeah, bones are making a comeback, I guess, as well as, there is the guy that had buckets and buckets of the Himalayan shoes.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a couple places with those. So the toppers and the meal toppers and like the squeezy packages, I'm like, just give your dog like the shreds off your carrots that you're peeling, or you know what I mean? Like you don't need to be spending all this money on these things like this, like what is even in here? Like on one hand, it's like maybe it's getting people thinking of like putting something super healthy in there, but yeah, like you don't have to really buy anything extra to do that.
Yeah, I think if I'm gonna recommend a meal topper, I would first recommend Northwest Naturals because they have the functional toppers, and I just love them.
Right.
And the big thing that and I also got to try Momentum, which is a new brand to me, and they had a salmon topper and a pork liver topper. I'm sure they have others, but those are the two that I'm trying with my dogs. I think, especially with my cat, those things are really great for my cat. But one thing that I found just the easiest is the crumbs in the bottom of a treat bag. I just pour them over everyone's meals, or just I would add them to a jar, and I could easily fill up a jar and that's my meal topper.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like of the squeezy, like vegetable and fruit kind of ones that, that's why I'm like, just give them the ends of your stuff that you're making for dinner,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like a look at the ingredients, look up, do your research kind of thing before you're buying like these toppers. But, I was talking to my friend Kate, and I was talking to the people at Barron's where I shop, and I was like, bless these people who own the independent pet stores, all the people that we saw there who are doing the research, who are only selecting the best products to carry in their stores. Like they really know what they're doing and try to help the pet parents, and then they're getting told all day like, oh, this is too expensive, or
oh my gosh.
And it's like there really are people out there that are trying to bring you the best products, and like I always want to support them.
Yeah.
So one thing that surprised me, just because I feel like it's been such a trend online, at least in my algorithm lately, has been like the canine enrichment. So
yes,
we did see some of the like slow feeding kind of bowls and stuff, but I don't know, for some reason I had expected to see like a ton of like canine enrichment kind of things.
And those bowls were sort of like side things.
Yeah.
Like they were like in addition, like, cause like with Pupwell, with the grooming kit, she had slow feeder bowls, and they had suctions on the back. So you can basically put them on a wall while your dog licks it and you're doing there. So I thought it was like a really clever idea. And that's kind of what we saw there, years ago, when I was newly going to SuperZoo, and maybe it's just, we were not in the right places. Cause I think on Thursday, because we were Thursday, I think at a distance, we saw something where it's like, there's some stuff over there. And I know that place, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the company that has the buttons that have your dogs talk to you.
Right.
They had a booth there, but I completely forgot to look them up. But I was just really surprised. Like I didn't see a ton of toys. And, I'm sure Chuck It was there, but I didn't see them. And I'm just surprised. I saw lots of stuffed toys,
Yeah.
but I didn't see, I don't know. It feels like I'm surprised that I didn't see an area where people are talking about, teaching your dogs sniff games
Right.
and
Right.
have the scent tins.
That was
And
kind of what I had expected to see more of. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, especially, given after the pandemic where people were stuck at home. Like there's all these cool things that you could do with your dog at home. And I'm just, maybe it's not something that people seem to be interested in. Cause to be honest, I have never seen these things in my pet store either.
Or maybe
So
there's not a way to like monetize them easily or something.
yeah.
Because again, like it is a business. And then, we were also talking, I was actually surprised to still see how many like flexi leash kind of things there were.
Yes. I know.
And I'm just like, really?
I know.
But we were saying, I guess there's probably some companies that would rather spend the money to go to the APBT pet dog trainer conference rather than go to like a SuperZoo if they have something that's geared more towards trainers or more interactive enrichment kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that was something. But yeah, I was just surprised I didn't see more of that. And then I was thinking of like trends for next year. And my big guess is that now that mushroom, thanks to the work of Green Juju, has now been approved to be in pet foods, I bet everything's going to be like a mushroom.
Have a mushroom, something in it. And that's one of those things where, again, we're going to have to ask ourselves, how much is it in there? How was it processed? And is it really viable? Or are you just trying to convince us that your stuff is healthy?
Exactly.
And yeah, I think it's interesting because we are still seeing where the pet industry isn't keeping up with the pet parent, if that makes sense, where because we're being forced to research so much of our own stuff, they're not prepared for the questions that we have and what we need. And there's also a lot of things, like there are some things where I don't mind buying it from someone else because it's a pain in the neck to make, even though it may be easy. Like golden paste is super easy to make, but it's a messy, messy mess. And so buying it and supporting a company that I love, I don't mind having that be one of the things where I'm just going to buy it. But there are a lot of other things out there where it's just sort of like, why would we spend premium dollar on something that would cost us pennies to make? But, there's always a market for everything.
So do we want to tell everybody the main reason that we went out to SuperZoo?
Yeah. The main reason, what changed our mind, because originally Erin wasn't supposed to be going. We got the opportunity to interview Rodney, Habib, and Dr. Karen Becker about just what they're doing and specifically, about their book. Erin asked some really good questions. And it's funny because after we finished recording, I cornered Dr. Becker and just asked her, what was it like when you are young and in school and you're just doing your own thing to save your dog? What was it like? How did other people treat that? And she was just sort of like, people told her, keep it to yourself, don't talk about it. And it was an interesting, it got me on just wondering about just different people. When did you start feeding raw? When did you start going in this direction? And most people, it's because a dog got sick. And there are the few people who it just made sense. Like feeding kibble just didn't make sense to them. But I thought, just talking to her, I wish we would have gotten that on the podcast because it was just, it was a really interesting story. But we did still got some really great stuff, mostly a better understanding of the recipes in the book and why they presented them in the way that they did, which I think will make people understand. Because I think one of the biggest criticisms that I've heard is the recipes. I mean, when you look at them, they do look a bit ridiculous. I mean, with, 6 or 7 eggs and all these things. And, and it seems to be like this around the world type of thing of all these different cultures. But I can't feed my dog this way. And this is not something I can do on a regular basis. And understanding the thought behind what they did was really interesting. So I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, yeah. I was glad that you were trying to really nail them down about that and about the cost of, what it would take to make some of these things. And so, yeah, that was something, their answer to that was not at all what I had anticipated. So
No, not at all.
I was really excited about that.
Yeah, so that was really good. It was, that's what's so funny about it is that ask the question. I have found that it's so fascinating when you ask the question, what you end up learning is just, what they went through to put this book together, who did what. It was, it was all just a very interesting story of how they came to that. It'll be interesting to see what they come with next. I figure something about cats. Maybe, I don't know. We didn't ask them that and they didn't tell us that. I'm just guessing.
I had that on my list and I had that on my list of questions and ran out of time. Like, what's next? So, also speaking of cats, I don't know if this is like an open secret, but the two crazy cat ladies hosted a party in Vegas after Thursday night's SuperZoo. And so that was a blast. And also, it was also kind of commingled with the Inside Scoop party and meet and greet. So it ended up just being like this big kind of fun time for hours and hours and hours. And speaking of Dr. Becker and kind of her origin story, there was a lovely moment where she brought her mom up on stage and was sharing the story of the Becker's Bites treat company and how, her mom really kind of took this over for her because she wanted a single ingredient organic treat that she could feed dogs, in her vet clinic. Yeah.
And she said that she found that people were basically dumping the treats into their bag because she's like, they kept running out of treats so quickly. And they realized people were just basically taking the treats and going, okay, I'm taking these home. And so they realized they may have something there. But yeah, she was saying that her mom had been coming to SuperZoo since
2001.
2001. Yeah. So, and that this might be her last year. That
she's like retiring,
but it's like a 3-generation business. I mean, Karen's name is on it, but it's her mom, her brother, and her niece that run the business. So I thought that was it was a really nice story.
It was a little emotional, yeah,
it was a really nice story. It's funny because I feel like there's a lot of ego in the pet space, where people want to feel popular. They want to get all the attention. They're the people who you can't talk to or ask questions because they get super sensitive. But then there are people who are just genuinely interested in doing something good. And I think that, it's really nice to be able to meet those people face to face and catch up with them and talk to them. So it was really nice to see all of them.
Yeah, it was a lot of awesome people all under one roof. And, again, like it was just making me realize, even just hearing that story with Dr. Becker, with the treat company, with you and I, with so many of the people that we talked to, that we're doing this because of a passion and a love for dogs. Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, like SuperZoo was also a reminder to me that like a lot of people are, they're just working for this company right now. They're going to go work for Lid's, the hat company in 6 months. They used to work for GameStop. Like it's just kind of a job or whatever, it's they're just selling whatever. They're the manager of whatever, VP of marketing or whatever, So it was just also a reminder of that for me and why it's important to me to be able to sit down and have this podcast to ask these questions, to get to know these people, to really want to trust where your food comes from, where your products are coming from.
Yeah.
Because we understand the impacts that it has on our dog's health and, on our health as people too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because I think that, a lot of times it's so easy to, especially like within the influencer realm, people sort of have the attitude that people are only doing it for money or only doing it for clicks and follows. And I think that there is part of that because, doing all of the stuff isn't free. And without the clicks and follows, then what are you doing? You need them to keep going. but it's not all that there is. And I think that there's something about being in a room full of people who are on the same page and just catching up and chit-chatting with them. It was a lot of fun, you know.
We got to hug Poppy Phillips from our
Yes.
podcast. It's the first, I've known her for over 4 years, and it's the first time I'd ever gotten to see her. So that was awesome. And Scott Marshall, it was the first time I ever got to hang out with him like in person. And I met Claudia, who is hosting the Nova Pet Summit that's going to be happening here in a couple weeks, which will have Rodney and Dr. Becker kind of headlining that event. And Claudia runs a chain of stores called Miss Kibbles. And we have to give a shout out to Kenzie and her hubby Nick.
Yes, we do. Hello.
Nick.
Hi, Nick. How are you? Thank you so much for listening to us ramble. We really appreciate it.
I think you're like our only male fan. And Kenzie's from Healthy Pet in Eugene, Oregon. Our new BFFs were Christy and Jen from Maxwell's Pet Bar in San Francisco. They just stopped us and wanted to take pictures and somehow like became our new BFFs. And
yes, it came to the party with us.
Yeah.
I wasn't even sure if I was allowed to just bring people, but I was just like, let's just go find it. And it turned out it was fine. It was great. I looked at their pictures and they had a great time.
Yes. They, in fact, I realized you and I never took like a picture of just us. So
I know, right?
I was just trying to screenshot the picture with them because I was like, oh, there's a picture of us together. Oh, and I got to meet Sarah of Three Dog Night, who I know you know, but she and I and Scott hung out talking for a while. So it was a good time.
Yeah. Good food. Oh my gosh, we had the best burgers of our lives in Vegas.
We did.
We went to Wahlburgers. So Mark Wahlberg's family restaurant. And when I took a bite of my burger, I took a bite and was just like, this is delicious. And then after a while, I just looked at Erin and was just like, I don't know if we're just really hungry or if this is the best burger. And she was like, I know. I mean, it was so good. I've been thinking about this burger since we came back. And I'm convinced that if I ever have it again, I'm not going to be as satisfied. So now I'm afraid to ever go back.
I was like Googling and I was like, oh my God, there's like none of them within any reasonable driving distance of where I live.
I know. I'm just like, damn it. I thought that you would definitely be able to have them because, I guess you're not near Boston, but you're closer to Boston than I am. So
I was like telling Tim all about it. It was very funny. Oh, we had a lovely, lovely, lovely dinner with Rob from Gussie's Gut and Dr. Katie Kangas, Jessica Fisher, and Jessica, who works with Dr. Katie Kangas, who brought you that amazing woolly mammoth toy.
Yes. Yes. She bought me a woolly mammoth for Bella because she remembered that I was looking for one. Erin bought me this really cool tray and I've been using it all weekend for my vegetables because I've been making veggie mixes for the dog. So every time I go out and pull vegetables from the garden, I use that. But yeah, it was a fun trip. I got my certificate from the Billinghurst Institute because I am finally finished. I am done. I'm so happy. But I'm also happy because everyone was saying the same thing about looking at the number of courses and because it's like over 200.
It's like 200 videos. Yeah.
Videos. But the videos are short, but still when you're doing it and you think you really made a dent and you feel like, oh no, you're 13 in. And it's just like, gosh, darn it.
I got very demoralized. I'm going to have to get back to it.
I actually called. Well, I texted Rob and was just like, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. I can't do this. And he was like, speed it up and just give it a go. And so I was just like, okay. And I just did it. And so I finished it in 12 days of just really focusing. But yeah. And so I got a frame certificate and
that was wonderful.
Quite proud of that. And that was really, the waiter came and he was just like, I'm going to take this and put it back in the office and I'll bring it back 1 year later. And I was like, thank you so much. So I guess I could have put it underneath my chair, but yeah, that was cool.
That was an amazing steak that we had there too.
Yeah, it was. And I just realized that our meal was an appetizer, a steak with a piece of tomato, and then a dessert.
Yes.
That was like, I was trying to explain to someone how good the food was and that the steak was so good. But then I was trying to think of like what else was on the plate. And I was just like a roasted tomato. I didn't eat it though. Well, someone did have broccoli because I took a piece of it and
Yeah, I
ate
think
it.
they had gotten that to like as a
Yeah.
side. So I was like, oh, I
But
guess
it
we
was
should have done
like,
that.
huh, that's different.
Yeah. But that was amazing steak.
Yeah, it was.
Very
It
well.
was absolutely delicious.
And we
So we
met
had,
Gus, as in Gussie's gut Gus.
yes, we did. The
He
most
was,
well-behaved dog on the
yes.
planet.
Oh my God. Like I forgot he was at the table.
Yeah. It was a good trip. It was a
Oh,
good
we
trip.
have to talk about the play.
So it's called the Pet Health Junkies. It's the Two Crazy Cat Ladies party. Carrie Hyde, who was the host of the Thrive Pet Expo for 2 years in a row down in Orange County. And she has a podcast, The Spa. I think it's the Spodcast is what she calls it. And she owns a business called The Spa. So she's a master groomer. I don't know if I got this right, where she had people like real actors come out from like Hollywood and New York.
Yeah.
That's actually quite impressive because it was all over the place. And I don't mean all over the place in a negative way. There was singing, there was a little bit, not really dancing, but singing and just sort of like pivoting into new storylines. And the whole point of it, as what I took away from it, was that veterinarians get into this industry with the best of intention. They love animals. They talked about a story where a little girl, what did she find? Was it a bird or
Yeah, like a bunny or
a
something.
bunny? Yeah, I think it was a bunny. And nursed it back to health. And ever since they were a little girl, they wanted to be a veterinarian. And they go into this world and, they're veterinarians, but then the clinic gets bought out by a bigger corporation. And now they're being scolded for spending too much time with clients and, not pushing enough vaccinations and not pushing the food. And it was
kind of like three interconnected stories.
Yeah,
Kind of jumped from like
exactly.
scene to scene, like, yeah.
And it was just three people acting this
All
out.
the
And I
parts
was just
out.
like, I don't know Carrie Hyde very well. I had no idea that she had this talent. Gosh, me coming up with a script for a reel is kind of like jarring. But it wasn't just a simple thing of, she did something similar at her last Thrive event where she had sketches going throughout the event. The lights would go down and there would be a sketch that was done and they were very entertaining and stuff. But this was that, but just even more. And it was the fact that they were able to adjust the stories, and you switch over. And now we're talking about the girl who grew up to be a vet. Now we're talking about, I can't remember what the guy was.
I knew there was one of the stories was like a family.
He was a veterinarian that, didn't he like retire or something?
Yeah.
He was a veterinarian that everyone loved and everyone knew about.
Yeah. And then he had gotten pushed out by the corporate vets.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like a story of a family who was trying to get care for their pet, only to find out that like these costs had risen and all of these, additional tests were required. But it was so poignant, and it's so touched on experiences that all of us either have or know people who have had.
Yeah.
And she was, just even saying like on GoFundMe that, people trying to raise money for their pets' health expenses is like one of the biggest purposes that people use GoFundMe for these days. And it definitely made its point. I think a lot of us got like emotional kind of watching it. And also I was also watching Carter from CPD Dog Health because he is an actor, and you could just see how much appreciation he was having for what.
Yeah.
I was also watching Carter watch the play. So but yeah, I like that's definitely one of the things that sticks out in my mind from that evening, and I felt like we couldn't give any kind of recap without mentioning it.
Yeah, it was quite impressive. It was one of those things where I wasn't expecting it. I was impressed with, because I don't remember how long it was, but it was an extended period of time. It was at least 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, but I wouldn't have been able to remember all of that.
Yeah.
And they did. So, and it was a well done. They were, like I said, they were singing because they brought back old jingles from old kibble commercials, and they had a jingle for the veterinarian, and I was impressed with that.
But yeah, it's definitely a great trip. Although it's just I hate flying. It's just so much. It's like the other side of the world from, where I am. And
I know mine was short. I have a 2-hour flight, so I have no complaints. I just watched a movie. I watched the second Born, so the Born Supremacy movie. I watched that on the way there. And then on the way home, I watched Abigail, the little vampire ballerina movie.
oh, okay.
And it was actually really good until the ending. The ending was terrible. The ending was absolutely terrible. But the movie in itself was entertaining.
So right before we started recording, Tim and I started to watch the Netflix documentary about dogs, the new one.
Yeah.
The name is escaping me now.
The Mind of the Dog.
Yes, Inside the Mind of a Dog.
Inside
Yeah.
the Mind, yeah.
Yeah. So we were just starting to watch that, and then my mom called, so I didn't get to finish watching it.
I over the past 2 days, I rewatched it. I own the Blu-ray, but it's on Netflix. Has a bunch of AMC shows right now. So I rewatched the whole series of Discovery of Witches, which is so good. It's so good. Such a great show. And then there's one of my favorite books by Anne Rice is The Witching Hour. And so
nice.
they have that. The show isn't as good as the book.
Never.
I mean, the book is like this thick. I mean,
there's so many,
and it has so much history.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love. I love books when either they come up with an entire world with rules and all that type of stuff where it's so deep and you basically have to write things down to keep track of everyone, or they just go into history. And this one, she basically went into the history of vampires and where they came from. Or no, this one was witches. She does have one where she goes into, that's Queen of the Dam, where she goes into the history of the vampire. And it's just so cool. But the Witching Hour has just hundreds of years of story. I mean, it's so good. But the TV show it was nice. There's just no way they could cover. It would take several seasons to cover just one book. But they got the important parts. So I'm going to watch that next.
I've like always refused to watch Interview with the Vampire because I just didn't want the book ruined. Like, because I loved that whole series of books. I read all that Anne Rice stuff, as a teenager. And so, yeah, I've literally refused to ever watch the movie because I don't want it ruined.
The first movie, hi, Bella. Hi, Apollo. Hi, Apollo. But the first movie, the Interview with the Vampire movie, I felt like, and this was, thankfully pre-internet and social media, but I felt like I was the only person that didn't like the movie. And it cracks me up today that people are just like, oh my God, I loved it. And Tom Cruise was the best Lestat. And I'm just like, was he though? And, I didn't like it.
Well, I haven't watched a ton of new stuff lately, but we did, I love comedy, like comedians. And so Hannah Berner is a newer comedian for me. And she has an amazing.
She was on Summer House.
Yes. Yes.
I've been meaning to watch it. Is it good?
It is great. Yeah.
I had no idea that she was funny. It threw me off that she was in a show because she got fired from Summer House because she dared to drink a drink that wasn't the guy, Kyle, wasn't his lover boy drink. And I guess this is a rumor. Allegedly, he went to producers and was like, no. And then they sent her on her way.
Yeah, I heard her on a podcast and they were referencing. I didn't know. I've only known her as a comedian, so it's funny.
I had no idea she was funny, and so I've been meaning to sit down and watch that.
It was great. So the funniest part about it, she's probably like 30, early 30s or something, and she talks about being married to an older man who's like a silver fox, and her husband is a year or two younger than my husband. And he had a really hard time with that. That he's an older man. Like, I had to hit pause. Like, we had to do like are they okay?
Well, it's like it's how I feel when people that I grew up with start dying. And it's just like, is this what it's going to be? It's like for the next 20 years, the stars that I loved growing up are going to just be dead. I mean, I feel like our generation got a little easy because our stars were also addicts. So a lot of them died young.
True.
But now the ones that stuck around are just sort of like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost Shannon Doherty and Luke Perry. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So I have a couple dog updates.
Okay, give me the dog updates.
Well, Nessie's got a body count on her now. She's got 2 rabbits and a bird.
It makes me feel so good.
Yeah, the Supreme Huntress has perfected her skills and is now just nabbing things left and right.
Is she eating anything that she's nabbing?
No, she just kills them and goes on with her day. Like Tim calls her the dispatcher. That's her Jason Statham movie name. Dispatcher.
Yeah. Apollo hasn't killed anything in about 2 weeks. I saw a blue jay land on the ground today. And I was just like, get up in the tree, get up in the tree. It's just like, you're really pretty. But Apollo didn't notice. And I don't think Apollo's really into the birds. He's mostly into the rabbits.
Oh, so I just released the 100th episode of Believe in Dog, and I shared our animal communicator session that we did back in June. And then Tim and I like kind of weigh in on whether she was right or does this make sense or not. And so one of the things that did not make sense at the time, she did talk about Nessie not liking birds, which we knew. But then she talks about Nessie not liking chickens. And we were like, where did she see chickens? Because we don't have chickens. None of our neighbors have chickens. Our vet has chickens. And she has seen that, and she gets very activated when she sees those chickens at our vet's house. And so that was one of the things where we're like, where does she see? And then like a week later, I went to the vet and I'm like, oh, that's where she saw the chickens. And she's been like, diabolically plotting against them ever since. But it was also just fun to have Tim on the podcast because I think he was on once in the earlier days as like a round table, but it was fun to sit down. We literally just sat down at the dining room table. I had all the equipment out that I brought out to Vegas, and we, just sat down and recorded. So that was fun. And Nessie is rocking her nose work class. We have like graduated from the first level. She did a vehicle search where, she had to find the stuff hidden like up under the wheel well and stuff. So we're starting our next level of class this weekend. So, we might look into doing some titles and things like that.
That would be so cool.
Done that before, but she loves it, and we practice at night, and she just wants to work. Like she just wants to work, man. Like she loves it. There was one day we went to class and she had come with me somewhere beforehand. She kind of had like a long day, and I was like, I don't want to push her with too much at the class. Like sometimes each of the dogs will get 2 run-throughs and sometimes we'll get 3. And I was like, I don't want to push her, but we ended up doing a third, and like you could tell she was tired, but man, she was not giving up and it was a trickier one. Like she couldn't reach where the scent was. And so you could tell she's like, I know it. And she just wouldn't give up until she, found it. And she sits down to signal, and they were like, look at that work ethic. Like we're having a good time with our nose work practice over here too.
Oh, that's so great. Well, Bella had her 2-year birthday party on the Saturday after we returned, and 3 of her siblings arrived. And it was just it was funny because I did decorations and balloons and everything, and everyone got a gift bag. And Rodney sent books for everyone's bags. Ruby of Real Dog Box sent treats, and Jody sent chews, the real mushroom chews. And and then Fluff and Tough, because I got all those dinosaurs, everyone got a Brontosaurus in their bag. So the party was a dinosaur theme. So and it was actually quite simple because there's dinosaur, birthday stuff. So it was fun. And so we just all sat around while the dogs, they didn't actually play as much as they did last year. Last year, there was lots of playing. This year, it was just sort of like, hey, I remember you, and lots of sniffing. And then mostly just sort of like, we brought out the treats, and then it was like, okay, we can sit and we can do all these things. I love it when dogs give you all the tricks. Like, I'm going to shake and I'm going to lay down and sit. I'm going to roll. I'm going to do everything because give me a treat.
Yes. Nino does that sometimes, and our old girl Lucy, she had several tricks, and she would run through them all. Like,
what's going to give me the treat? Exactly. So we had that. So it was like it's always fun to connect with everybody because we talk about like the boring things to anyone else, but it's exciting to us. How much does everyone weigh? Is anyone doing any because we were worried about this litter having joint issues. And so where does everyone stand on the joint issue? All of our dogs have varying degrees of anxiety. So what's that like? And so like one of my friend's dogs, Cinderella, we call her Cinder. She likes dogs, but is not really into people. But so I started giving her like the treats without looking at her. And eventually, like by the end of the day, and because we went from my house to a different place, by the end of the day, she was just coming up to me for treats. And I just wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't pet her. I would just leave her alone and give her a treat. And we were Brent is her mom. And we're looking at each other like, oh my God, she's taking a treat. But I was excited. Bella has the longest legs. She's a long, skinny little girl. They're all pretty small, but she's not the smallest weight wise. But yeah, it was just kind of cool just checking them out, seeing them all.
That was something interesting in the communicator session. So Nino is a tall guy with like long legs, and Nessie has like the short little legs like Penny did. And apparently like it's somewhat intimidating to her that Nino is like so much bigger and like towers over her and stuff. So we really like got into like their whole dynamic and like why they've had some scuffles and stuff. So it was really interesting to find out.
That is. I think that's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. I have it on my like, what is it called? My playlist, but I haven't listened to it yet.
Tim was so cute because I caught him listening to it when I got home today, and he's like, I just wanted to make sure he didn't make me sound dumb.
Oh.
Well, even though we're back by Zoom, it's good to see you. It was so much fun to get to record sitting next to you last time.
I know, it was great. We did good. I think we did real good.
Yeah, so everybody look for that next week with Dr. Becker and Rodney.
Bye, guys.